and quicker. Okay.
Normal.
This is Justin. Okay, thank you.
He might have some words of wisdom. You never can tell.
You never can. All right, I'm gonna make sure things are okay on my side. Okay.
Let's get you on this.
Okay, we are good to go. Let me grab the flag here. All right, shout out to Kim and her fantastic flag finding skills.
All right.
All right,
All right, is
who would
everybody
like
ready
to
then?
do the pledge?
I'll start.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Now let me go hang this back up. Don't want it to touch the ground. Okay. All right, shall we roll call?
Kim, do you normally actually roll call or do you just observe who's there?
I just observe who's here.
Okay.
All right,
HENSEL.
that's right. It's
Running
correct
joke.
in these minutes.
Hey, Roy.
It's correct. I'm just kidding.
I'm just glancing over those minutes again.
Okay, feel free to review the minutes.
Are we waiting for the minutes to be looked at?
Mhm.
Okay. I just wanted to ask, do we have an HR person now before Wendy?
Kim?
Because I know she has the experience. I just wondered if we ever did have an HR person.
Not a full time. No, I do it
So
a little bit and
that'll be nice to have someone with the experience. Okay.
Hang on one moment. Rachel's calling me, so.
Okay.
Okay, she's getting ready to log on, so you be looking for her to join the meeting there, Justin.
Okay, I will be looking.
She had misread. She actually thought she was going to have to drive down to the library, so she said she'll be a little faster now. So
Okay, great.
And I don't see anything in the minutes. Does anybody else see anything in the minutes that need to be corrected?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, financial report. Y'all want to wait? If Rachel's joining, do we want to wait? Are there any things to point out that she might be interested in hearing?
I just got a message on my way. I guess you got that too.
Yes.
Okay, everybody did.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go check my mailbox one more time to see if a mailman has come and brought mine.
Oh,
When
your
she
packet? Yeah, they've been really slow.
When she says on her way, she doesn't mean to the library, does she?
I
No,
don't-
well, she thought that she was gonna have to come to the library.
I
She's
know.
good now. She's logging in.
Okay.
Kim, did I fill in everything that needed to be filled in on that application?
It looked
Is
like. it
everything
to me.
okay? Okay, all
I sent it to the girl.
right. Because I know it was, when I pulled it back up after I filled it in 3 times. It kept deleting everything I put. I was like, okay, that's
Oh,
not
no.
gonna work. So, all right.
Kim or Wendy, either one, the equipment replacement computers on order, what are those? Is that employee computers or is that patron computers?
It's both.
Okay,
Justin's computer is one
What?
one of these computers that's on order is your computer. The one you've got now is an older one. We ordered you a new one, but it hasn't got here yet. It's
Oh,
replacement.
okay.
You did.
They're all
Lucky you.
replacement computers.
so we've got a mix in there of employee and some of the patron computers in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the 65% for equipment that you're talking about? On the budget and actual, Crystal?
6414. Yeah, I was looking at her notes on the front, but does
Well,
that show up in
oh.
the 6414?
Yes.
Oh, I was looking at the profit and loss part where it says
Yeah.
65%, but
Yes,
it's only 58% because that's where the equipment is.
yes, that's where it's referencing it, yeah.
Right. And what about the supplies, 89%? What is that? Under general operations? That's the big chunk of the budget for the year already.
No, that's insurance.
Oh, I
That's-
looked at the wrong, I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong line. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
insurance. I understand that.
No, it's an annual payment.
Didn't line up my lines. Thank you.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello. Sorry I'm late, everybody.
That's okay. Let's see. Before we went before we went any further, just want to have our guest introduce himself. Feel free to go ahead, Steve.
Okay, Steve Barrett, I'm your West Region consultant. I was director of Mason County Library up in Maysville, if you know where that is. And have been a library director 3 times, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Kentucky. And had always wanted to be a consultant. I'm retired military, 24 years. And, this is my 2nd career. So was able to get this position right as COVID started, which I was happy about because then I didn't have to deal with all the issues that the libraries had to deal with. So I got out of that, but was not allowed to travel. The state had locked us down because of COVID, and unless it was an absolute emergency, which we had a couple of last year, that I was able to go visit libraries. Otherwise, I couldn't go visit. So we have been released to travel. I had planned on coming to visit with you folks, but then I found out that you were doing this Zoom, and I appreciate that because I'm actually in Lawrenceburg, Indiana right now because my wife and I are helping our son. Looks like he may have COVID, and
Oh,
so
no.
we'll see what happens. But I appreciate y'all letting me join in.
Our
Glad to
pleasure.
have you. All right, Rachel, we were just, we already approved the minutes.
Okay.
And we're reviewing the financials, and we just asked a couple of questions, but nothing that really stands out.
Okay.
We have a new person on our joining us today too, and that's Wendy Stanley. She's going to be taking my place. So
Hi, Wendy.
So,
I'm trying to remember, weren't you at the last meeting?
No, I was not.
Oh, you weren't. Oh, okay. I was thinking you were. Okay.
We had somebody, was it Aaron?
Aaron
Somebody
was there.
Aaron.
Mhm. But I was thinking Wendy was too. I don't know why. So Kim's just throwing Wendy right into virtual. Well,
Hey,
did
it's a
Oh.
wonderful group experience.
does anyone else have any questions on the financials? And if not, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Melanie.
Second.
Thank you, Crystal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Next, moving into the management reports. And Justin, it looks like director's report is number 1. I did print that.
Okay.
And I don't know, did the rest of you see his email earlier that included that report?
yes,
Okay.
but I have it on my phone. I can't print it,
Oh.
but I will call it up.
So Justin, I will give you the floor.
Okay. Well, a lot's happened, of course, over the month. August 2nd, before I arrived, McCracken County entered the red zone for COVID-19. I arrived on the 4th. Super happy to be here. Thank you all for, it's a pleasure to be here. The Friends of the Library book sale was hosted at the St. Paul Lutheran Church from August 4th through the 7th. I am pleased to report that the book sale brought in $14,927.18 in total sales. That is a 6.9% increase from our last book sale in November 2019. And I would just like to say, I am absolutely blown away by how fantastic the Friends group here is. I have seen Friends groups in places like around Houston that have double the population and don't even break $2,000. Almost $15,000 is absolutely incredible for a library this size. Some fun facts, 3% of our sales were on a Wednesday, 25% were on Thursday. We jumped up to 59% of sales were on Friday, and then dropped off to 11% on Saturday. Almost 3/4 of it were cash, with 27% being credit card. We had 1,040 books, boxes of books that were put up for sale. 1,000 were sold, and 40 boxes were donated to various churches and other groups in need. The St. Paul Lutheran Church also had a bake sale to accompany it. They had over $1,000 in sales. So I think everyone had a win-win all around. Earlier this month, we had our Loki Teens event with our youth programmer, Alasia, on August 6th. It was hosted at Etc. Coffee, and they had 15 teens, which for most teen events, especially during this time of year, 15 is actually quite high.
That is.
On August 10th, Judge Executive Clymer instituted a mask mandate requiring masks for anyone not fully vaccinated in a county building. I had signage go up requiring patrons to wear a mask when interacting with staff and when using computers. The staff feedback has been very positive, requiring patrons to wear a mask for an interaction. It's really cut down on the confrontation between patrons and staff. On August 11th, the library closed early at 5:15 due to the discovery of a bed bug colony. Both the first and second floor were sprayed, all public areas. The total cost was $1,400. The patrons who were observed to have had bed bugs were all issued a letter restricting them to curbside until their home was cleared of bed bugs. They could bring in an exterminator receipt or a letter from their landlord stating that they had been sprayed for bed bugs. Any items that they do bring in will be sanitized in our bed bug cooker device. This summer, we had.
Oh, actually, I have a quick question on that.
Yes.
And we knew, I would, I don't want to embarrass anyone, and especially with this being publicly broadcast, I want to be
Sure.
very careful about anything I say, but we knew for certain who it was. I mean, we had, you mentioned observed them on them. I'm just going to say it was very obvious who it was. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
To be less delicate, yes, they were personally observed on the
Okay.
person.
Okay.
Yes, but they were very discreetly addressed and treated with the utmost respect and dignity. On a positive note, the library instituted Beanstack, the program designed for virtual badges and virtual counting for summer reading programs. This has become popular at several other libraries. This was our first year using it for summer reading. We had 674 registrations throughout the summer, with a total of 818 books being logged reading, which is 144,949 minutes total, with 566 activities completed from youth, teen, and adults. This is also very high, given the opportunities of other things throughout the county, throughout other library systems in America. These numbers are quite good. Our social media has been also very excellent this month. We just released over the weekend a beekeeping video featuring Amanda Quint, one of our library staff. For those who have not watched it, she does a great interview with a local beekeeper and discusses the finer points of beekeeping and why it's important to have bees. The McCracken Library was also recognized for our outreach events over the summer by the Board of Commissioners. I was going to ask that our previous acting director, Sarah McGowan, be here for her institutional knowledge prior to me being director, but she is currently over there accepting an award for them as we speak.
Oh, well, good for her.
Great.
Yes. I think she and the team have done an excellent job, and I'm so happy to see that's being recognized throughout the community. Our bookmobile has been very active. Our bookmobile coordinator, Leslie, has been absolutely wonderful. She has been all over the community. I've received thank you cards signed by patrons and members of the community, thanking us for having them, giving that opportunity to them. So that to me, that's amazing. Our paperwork was submitted for the Emergency Connectivity Fund, also called ECF. We submitted paperwork to secure new Chromebooks and Wi-Fi hotspots. We have requested 80 Chromebooks and 100 hotspots.
That's significant.
That is huge.
What are our current totals that we have in Chromebooks?
Kim, do you know that by chance?
Circulating Chromebooks, the only ones we have right now are in the building, inside the building, circulating. These will actually be replacement for any of our laptops, except the 5 that we got from the workforce grant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have 4 more that we got from another grant, laptops. They haven't gone out yet. But roughly we have 25 laptops circulating and maybe 25 more. We have 25 hotspots inside those laptops.
Okay.
And then about 20 or 25 more hotspots. So this will definitely increase our effectiveness.
We started off originally with I think 10 Chromebooks. And then I knew we had gotten more on top of that, but I mean, 80, wow.
Yeah, that's a fourfold increase, which to me is 4 times more people we can help in the community.
Mhm.
Well, along with this ECF money, we requested money to possibly help the housing authority. Crystal and I and Brent Shelton work together to come up with a list of stuff that equipment to be able possibly to get Wi-Fi to the housing authority and those people there without it costing them anything.
Mhm.
There was about close to $30,000 requested for that.
Wow.
It's real iffy whether it'll come through or not. This other should be approved.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yes, it is.
Well, it will, that part will be absolutely, yeah, wonderful for the housing authority and for the whole Paducah area.
We're excited about the opportunity, and we understand that it's only a possibility and that they could shoot holes all in the plan and we could get denied, but it was worth a try. And we appreciate Kim's work on that and Brent helping us with that as well. So we're hopeful, and if it falls through, then it didn't cost us anything to try.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Gray hair dye.
Yeah, a few gray hairs. Me too. I just covered mine up yesterday.
Our bookmobile coordinator, Leslie Garrett, was recently quoted in Teen Vogue for our re-entry toolkits and our electronic resources. I am so proud of Leslie. I'm so proud of our staff who are so proactive in being quoted in media, who are active in the community, who come up with all these wonderful ideas and contributions. It's so wonderful to see staff engaged and engaging.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah, that's super significant. I mean,
Vogue
that
has a very high circulation.
oh, absolutely. I mean, it is not the local penny saver digest. I mean, it is a real publication people have that have heard of and have read it for sure. And we had a minor power outage on August 14th due to squirrels. We were only closed for a few hours, but we are definitely back up and running. Other news and things to look forward to. We have our tax presentation to the fiscal court on Monday, September 13th at 5 p.m. Courtroom D on the first floor. The staff will be invited to show their support, as will the friends. Our annual state report is almost completed. Right now, managers are looking over it with our fine-tooth comb to make sure that everything is accurate, that there's nothing that we have missed, any other numbers that we might have forgotten about that can be contributed, but we will definitely have that in before Friday. Maybe before Thursday, Steve. Other than that, the staff attended a fire extinguisher safety workshop on August 18th. I did snag a little bit of footage for it that we'll be putting on our social media. It was very fun. I think staff really enjoyed the training. And also for some people who had never used a fire extinguisher before, it really helps get some of those jitters out that people would have about using a fire extinguisher. The Paducah Sun is currently doing articles on our Evening Upstairs events and our Narcan services. The Narcan services article is out today, and the Evening Upstairs events has been moved to a virtual platform. We had originally planned on hosting it outside in the library garden, but due to the COVID numbers, we felt that it was safest to just simply move it to online, and we'll stream it from our meeting room area. And speaking of the camera area, I put in for a quote with our IT coordinator, Jay, for some camera upgrades. The first quote is to upgrade 2 of our outside cameras to HD quality and to add a 3rd camera to cover the blind spot. For those who have not seen the cameras, the garden area has cameras on either side of it that cover the edges, but there is no camera in the middle that covers the main grass area or the walkway underneath. The separate quote addition to that would be 2 additional gazebo cameras that would monitor the gazebo areas directly. We actually had a minor incident over the weekends. We had a gentleman who claimed he was hit by a rock by someone, but when we checked the cameras, it was actually in that walkway blind spot. I would say I would recommend both proposals, but if we had to pick one or the other, I would definitely say let's upgrade the 2 cameras and add that 3rd camera for the blind spot. I feel like it's very important for the safety, especially for anyone who is in that area. It's the benches and the walkway where most people would be sitting, and I feel that there is somewhat of a liability to having that blind spot there.
I think those are both good ideas. I mean, to protect patrons, customers, the library itself from any legal liability. I think that's a good idea.
Is that cost equipment and installation? Is that an outside vendor installing those?
Yes.
Okay. And Kim, do we already have payments to those vendors? I'm asking, in your procurement may be different than mine, but mine, they look at procurement over the full year and making payments to those vendors, and they consider it bid splitting if you say, well, we didn't have to procure that because it was under this amount, but then later that year you had more purchases to that same vendor. Is it similar for you guys? And are we going to run into any issues having this much cost in one purchase and having other costs later in the year?
Not that I'm aware of. We don't purchase that much in these cameras situations. It's have to be up to $30,000 for to get into it, but I can't see us unless every camera in the building was replaced and all the wiring and everything else.
Right. But does Brent do the camera work?
No.
Okay.
It's Brinks is where
okay.
The quote
Okay.
comes from.
Well, that was my concern, was because I know he does the other work for you on the wiring and stuff like that. So I was thinking about all those things adding up, and that's where we could have got close maybe to that 30,000 with some of that E-rate stuff he's done for us. And so just double checking. I think it's a great idea. I support it. I just wanted to make sure we weren't violating any procurement laws.
And I'm assuming there's a monthly charge as well.
No,
No?
not
Not
on
monthly
the
charge.
cameras. There's not.
I mean, for the recordings.
No.
No.
The recordings are kept in-house on a server that we've already purchased.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you need a motion for that, or did you just want to talk that through with us?
I wanted to talk it through with you, but if you want to make a motion for it, I'm not opposed.
What do you think, Kim? Do we need a motion?
I was just looking. I don't think so. He's up. He
Steve
has
says
the
no.
ability to order
Steve says
anything
no.
up to $10,000. Did you know that, Justin?
No, I did not.
Use
Maybe
it
I should tell you
wisely.
that.
I'm going with Steve's advice that we don't need one.
You can, like Justin said, a lot of boards like to do that. I mean, they do motions on everything, but as a director, so.
Well, I mean, being the newest guy in the room, I would rather ask for permission than forgiveness.
I think that's very wise.
We
I
appreciate you
appreciate it.
discussing it with us.
Yes.
You're very welcome. The team is currently working on revisiting a COVID-19 response plan. We're also looking at remote working and some outdoor policies, which I have also forwarded on to you to review. Next month, I was hoping to have Stacy. Rachel, do you know how to pronounce Stacy's last name?
I think it's Dohone.
Okay. I was hoping to invite Stacy to this meeting, but as soon as we went virtual, I thought, okay, maybe we might want to hold off. I also remember Steve having interest in our meeting, so I thought, okay, we can space out our guests. But yes, I'm going to invite Stacy to our next meeting.
And she's the one who we talked with at the Sprocket event.
Yes.
Yeah, she is really interesting. She leads the Youth Coding League effort for Sprocket. And she is also a board member of the Cape Girardeau Library Board. So
Okay.
her interest overlap with ours in multiple ways. But yeah, I think we'll enjoy talking with her.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to meet people who speak library already. And that was all I had for my director's report.
Okay.
I did have a question for you, Justin, on the
Sure.
tax presentation. So is that required by your local fiscal court since it's not required by statute anymore, or is that more for a PR? Because that's what we're trying to tell most folks is go ahead and do it for PR. If you get in front of your fiscal court and you can do that, show what good the library is doing, that's a good thing. But do you know?
So it is not required by statute?
Not anymore. It used to be, but it is not anymore. So now it's just the local thing. If your fiscal court requires of the library, then you do it, but otherwise you're not required to do it. So
Did not know that.
That's nice to know.
Good
Yes,
to
it
know.
is.
I'm going to do it anyway because I want the publicity for the library.
exactly. And with everything you're saying, it just makes sense that you get in front of that fiscal court with your staff and friends and all that and say, we love our library. We want to keep going. We're doing great things. And that's just a good plug for you guys in the community.
I actually had the pleasure of attending their session yesterday. I wanted to get a feel for the courtroom, get to know, some of the other, department heads. And I was a little sad to see that some of the other departments did not have anyone supporting them. And I thought, oh, they don't have a friends group. They don't have a library board to support them. All alone out there. I thought that's, I'm going to feel real good having a lot of people fill the room, at least fingers crossed.
So at this point, you guys do have good support from your judge executive and for your fiscal court.
We do. We have excellent support, and
That's great. I had the same thing in Mason County, but I've got some libraries here. We've got some libraries here in the West region that it's the complete opposite, and they battle all the time. So it's good to hear that you got that support.
So in terms of the statutory requirement, I joined the board, gosh, let me think, in 2016. And at that time, I want to say that 2015 was perhaps the first year that the library had to present. And I'm asking a little bit for background. And I think it was required then by statute. But so what is it that changed? Or when did it change? Because I had not heard that.
Yeah, it just changed this last year.
Oh, okay.
Terry can quote you the statute, all that, give you all the legalese. And I don't get into all that, but yeah, and that's what we've been telling all the libraries this year is that changed. And so just talk to your fiscal court and see if they require it of you locally, then that's fine. Go ahead and do it. But if not, then work with them. And again, we have some libraries that they don't want to get in front of the fiscal court because those folks just want to hammer on them and grill them and embarrass them. And so it's better that they don't get in front of their fiscal court. So
we do have a good relationship, and they had actually already reached out to us and asked us when we wanted to present. And the options were yesterday, and that was going to be before we had another regular scheduled board meeting or the meeting in September, which we opted to do. And we opted for that one simply because we could have this meeting to plan our presentation beforehand without having to call a special meeting. But
right.
Yeah, I would say actually, oh, sorry. I was our judge executive throughout the COVID pandemic has been very complimentary in speaking, I would say plugging the library at various public events for some of the efforts that we discussed earlier, in terms of reaching out and helping, especially during the pandemic, people get wireless access, just, everything that we were trying to do to creatively help the community, it was recognized and appreciated. And we appreciated the appreciation on behalf of our staff. So.
Yeah, it used to be a problem with the fiscal court, the judge executive having to have a special meeting for those tax rate presentations. So you guys had to have a special meeting, then they had to have a special meeting, and it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That one thing you mentioned there, appreciating the appreciation. I got to tell you a quick story. We were stationed in Japan for 7 years, and we would take our photos into our local base exchange and have them processed. And of course, they were sent off the base to a Japanese place, and we'd get them back, and it was all in Japanese pretty much. And then they would try to translate just a little bit. And at the bottom of all this Japanese, it was in English, and it said, "We appreciate your appreciation." So I've always used that term.
Well, let's see. It looks like the next thing on our list is facility update.
Do we have any facility updates, Kim?
Yes, we do. Last month, I had told you all that we were having trouble with the unit in the local and family history room. And I can gladly say that Bacchus Oliver got involved and found out what the problem was and got it fixed. We aren't having problems in that room now. So, hallelujah.
Well, kudos to him. Because you mentioned that had been kind of an ongoing thing for a couple of months at least.
Yeah,
it was installed.
Good. Good.
Okay. Is that the only facility update that we have?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
So COVID-19 response update.
As I mentioned, the director's report, we do have signage up. We have moved tables back into the lobby that have masks in a basket. And we do have a lot of signage encouraging people to keep their mask on in the library. We do have the executive order up that anyone who is not fully vaccinated is required to wear a mask in the library. Our signage also asks that patrons wear a mask during staff interactions. So if they are looking for a book, if they are needing help with the computer, checking out, we do ask that they wear a mask during that interaction. The other management and I are also currently working on a more detailed COVID-19 response plan. When that is fully fleshed out, I will send it to the board for review.
Okay. I'm going to skip. Okay. I'm going to skip tax presentation discussion briefly, only because I think it's going to be not super long, but I think it's going to be longer than the remote work policy discussion. And that way we'll go ahead and cover the short one. And then that'll give us whatever time we need for the tax presentation discussion. Okay. So the remote work policy, I'm assuming that is the telework policy that you sent and I think remote work policy. Yeah. Remote work agreement.
Yes, those are all kind of bundled together. I feel like they're three separate policies, but by kind of combing through each one, that we'll find bits and pieces and assemble a finished product that will be more friendly, at least more pandemic, more friendly to any kind of extenuating circumstances for staff.
Mm-hmm. And am I remembering correctly? Did we see this a couple of months ago?
We did.
And okay. And we had some questions.
To the best of my knowledge, I do believe you had seen it before, but I believe that we had done some tinkering with it since then.
I thought we had paperwork and I tried to find it and I couldn't, so.
Well, this, along with the other wording that I had sent over, my ideas / notes I had in red, with other potentials in blue to help highlight which ones were kind of what I was thinking. I'm not sure which questions you have or where you'd like to start.
All they had seen before was the telework policy.
Okay.
Crystal gave us the wording on the alternative work arrangement.
Well, thank you, Crystal.
Our HR person had spent a lot of time putting that together back when COVID first started, before we ended up doing some remote work. And so I knew it was pretty encompassing, and it addressed a lot of things that we may have left out of the telework policy. And I know sometimes that leaving things open can be good, but sometimes nailing things down can be good too.
Yeah, I feel like there's a chance of sometimes leaving things a little too open.
Yeah.
I had a question, Crystal, on the, there was 3 types of work arrangements on the alternative work arrangements.
Mhm.
And the intermediate flexible schedule almost sounds like you had flex time that you were, what was that?
It was not necessarily flex time. It was, but it was. So if your kids were at home virtually and it was just too much for you, your hours might vary from the regular office hours, in an effort to better help you get your work done. So if you needed to take a break during the day to help them with homework, because again, some of this remote work for us was because parents were having to be home with children who were not being allowed in schools and daycares.
Right.
So they could have said, okay, can my working hours be 7 to 3:30 instead of 8 to 4:30? Because that allows me some time to get up and get going before they're awake and having to be logged on for school, and I can get a lot done. And so there was a little bit of flexibility in that for us. You know, that's something that you guys will have to determine if that's something that you wanted to do. But for us, we did allow that to some extent. Again, it had to work. It depended upon the position and what you were normally doing. You know, for folks that address the public or maintenance work, or, you know, it wouldn't work in every situation. It kind of was, you know, it had to be approved. All of these had to be approved. They had to be presented to your supervisor. And, but we did have that flexibility in some situations. The biggest one utilized for us was just a remote work agreement. But yes, that some of these, the flexible work schedule is the one that I was talking about. And then the intermittent flexible schedule was mainly like, I might need to work remotely some days and come in the office some days. And it was just going to be kind of, you know, when maybe grandma's watching my kids, but can't every day. So those days I need to be home. It was very, like it says, it was intermittent.
Well, that's what I worked, because I had to come in some days and pick up stuff, and
Yeah.
was more of an intermittent flexible schedule.
Yeah. So like I said, she just tried to make several options that would be more conducive to employees being able to just make it through this pandemic and some of the challenges we were facing, such as kids being in virtual school and you know, not daycares being closed. And so we're not using it as much now, but as school has gotten started and some virtual options are coming back into play as COVID has surged, I expect to see a few of those coming in. And like I said, it has been helpful. It is more difficult. It didn't work out so well for some people. You know, it was difficult for them to get their work done with the kids there. And I think if they had it to do all over again, they'd say, no, let me come to the office. I'll figure out something else, because it can be very challenging. So, you know, I just want to throw that out there. You know, the managers have to stay in contact with those employees. That's critical, and make sure they're getting their work done still, that it actually is a fitting situation for them and they're still able to manage their workload.
So the flexible work schedule would be, say, if I'm going to work, I'm going to say like 6 to 10 and 2 to 6 every day, so that I can have that middle part of the day to help the kids or whatever.
Yes.
An intermittent flexible schedule would be that, let's say I'm going to do that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I'm fine, because, you know, the kids are somewhere else on those days, and, you know, I'm only needing that intermittent that flex schedule on some days. And then the remote work agreement. So actually, you could potentially be working under a remote work agreement and a flexible work schedule or intermittent flexible schedule, like both of those together because you're at home and you're doing a flex schedule.
Yes, technically you could. You could be doing remote work on a flexible schedule as well.
Okay. And I think we might, well, Kim, did we have some of that going on before? I mean, we may not have had a formal agreement around it, but were people, say, especially with the people or parents who had kids at home, did we have flex schedules and people who were working those?
You mean before COVID?
No, during COVID.
Yes, during
Yeah.
COVID we did. And a lot of what the problem was during COVID with your children, there was there was some kind of federal policies that were basically set up. You had to pay an employee to stay at home with their children. If there's daycares and their schools were closed, if they had qualifying children, then you actually have to pay them. All of that has expired right now, but I'm wondering if it won't come back. We did not qualify as the library to get money back on that. The only thing that, because we're government, the only thing that we were qualified to have gotten back would have been the Social Security or Medicare tax. I'm not sure, maybe both. I remember talking to the auditors and they said it's really not worth all the paperwork, having to get it all together and stuff. So I never did it. I started doing it and then checked with them and they said, yeah, I wouldn't fool with it, but so I didn't.
We didn't qualify either for any of the reimbursement.
It could get very, very expensive. Extremely.
So what she's talking about, if their children were at home, they could request leave that you were required to pay them. And wasn't it 2/3 for up to so many weeks? Like you didn't pay them their full salary, but it was like 2/3 of their salary for up to so many weeks, and you couldn't really stop it, and it could hit agencies hard. And that was one of the reasons for, in our case, that we offered these options, because it kept people working.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what we did here. We didn't have, I don't think we had but two. Most of them were willing to work from home. They might not have worked but 2/3 of their regular time, but at least they were trying to work. Yeah.
So is there, I know before everything just happened so suddenly, is there a need, if we institute this as a policy, that would just be, is there a need for employees? Is there a need for employees to sign off on a remote working agreement, or just adding this to our policy to the library's policy is sufficient?
Now, we talked about having a form, but I personally don't like to have forms in a policy manual. I like to say they will fill out a form and have it signed off by their managers. I think the form can be like a single form, and which one are you applying for and stuff like that. Crystal had even given us copies of their forms. They had 3 separate ones that they had to fill out, and their particular one, they asked their employees to state what they had done for the week and stuff. We actually asked our employees when they turned in their hours to turn in what projects they had completed while we were closed and stuff. Many of us had looked at this. When Sarah and I first looked at it, we looked at it as part of it as we'll never get another snow day. Some of us will never get another snow day.
Yep.
And that's where some of it in that telework policy, it says, such as for weather emergencies and power outages. But there's a lot of people that would not be eligible to be able to do that because they don't have a regular computer. They don't have the regular access from home, where a lot of what we do now, though, we have Office 365, which is accessible from anywhere. So that helps out some. And but being able to do 100% of your work on a snow day, if it wasn't predicted, is not going to happen. You can't do it, or most people can't do it unless you were prepared for it, to take files home, stuff like that. In my case, that would be the problem, was to be able to take some of the files home, maybe checks home and stuff like that, to be able to print them off or whatever.
Yeah, I think the only things you could really do would be something like social media that you could do from your phone. Post to the library's Facebook page that we didn't have power, or that we were snowed in, or something like that. I think beyond that, I don't think there's a whole lot they could do, especially if they had no power and they had to conserve that phone battery, for sure. But yeah, beyond that, I don't see a whole lot of other potential there.
Well, and when we say during power outage, we're thinking if the library had lost power, right? If we weren't able to open the library for some reason.
Yes, for some reason, I'm sorry. For some reason, I just thought if the power went out at home, sorry, director moment there. Yes, if the power went out, yes, staff could still definitely, post, to our social media using their phones. When we had the bed bug thing earlier this month, we had two staff that, we said, hey, we're closing for bed bugs. They both took out their phones and instantly started posting on our social media about it.
Mm-hmm. I hope they didn't say
Policy.
that.
No, it said that we were closing early.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think this policy does address that, though, if you have a power outage at home while you're working from home, about immediate, reporting that to your manager immediately. And because there are things you can't help, just like when you're at the office and the power goes out, you can't help that. And we actually did have that happen once, and the employee just reported to me, oh, by the way, my power's out. I can't do anything at the moment. I've got my phone if you need something. And then within half an hour, she reported back to me, just letting you know, my power's back up. I'm back up and going.
If we had a form, and I agree with Kim that the form should not be part of the policy, it should be a separate form. But I do think if there is a form, that is part of what I would put on the form is, I understand if the power goes out, I need to inform my supervisor about that.
Yeah. Or the internet. If you're working on most of your project, or, remoting into your computer, you wouldn't be able to do anything if you didn't have internet either.
Right.
Right. Well, if you look at the second page, the next to last paragraph, employees must report to their supervisor or other designated person if they are ill, if equipment or power fails, or for any other reason they will not be working during the designated remote working period.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that would mean if your computer failed, if you couldn't get something to work on your equipment, if your internet went out, if your power went out, any of those things that prevented you from doing what you would normally be doing.
I think it's pretty good verbiage. I mean, it certainly appears to have been very well thought out and addresses as many things as you can think of, I would say, but leaves it open, without getting just too down in the weeds. So
absolutely. I mean, part of what I included there was, quarantine, caring for a family member, outpatient procedure with a doctor's note stating that they are fit to work from home. I certainly, if someone had an outpatient procedure on their wrist or something and they couldn't use a keyboard, I would definitely want a doctor's note that says if they could or could not work. Additionally, I also changed some of the verbiage from the specified period for work arrangements from 9 weeks to 6 weeks with the ability to be extended at the director's discretion. I wanted to be able to give people the freedom, but not to feel like it was a free ticket to just work from home.
Right. Yes, I think the 9 weeks was because school was on a 9-week rotation. But it was hard to keep up with that because like daycares weren't on the same schedule as schools. But that is what the 9 weeks came from, was the 9-week grading period for schools. And
okay.
that's when you could request to change from like virtual to in-person, was at the end of each 9 weeks. And so that's what we went with. But if this is going to be an all over policy, not just for school related things, and the 9 weeks might not be the answer there.
Yeah, and I mean, if someone has a situation that requires 9 weeks, that's okay. I would just want to go to 6 weeks, and if they need a 3-week extension, I want to be kept in the loop as well.
Right.
And if by chance it's not working out, 6 weeks, I see that it's it would be for a 6-week period. And then one of the policies, I forget which one, said that there was basically a 2-week trial period, which I'm assuming would be part of the 6 weeks. And if the trial period went fine, then perhaps as the 3rd and 4th and 5th weeks progressed, maybe things started to get a little lax or whatever. At the end of that 6 weeks period, you might want to say, you know what, this isn't working out. And, at least that way you're not committed all the way up to 9. So.
And I think at any time you could withdraw that if you can see that that a person's work is not being completed.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Now, Justin, you had mentioned adding some stuff about outpatient surgeries, things of that nature. Where is that? Where are you seeing that?
That was on the
Telework
first page,
policy. Yeah,
Mhm.
telework policy.
under telework policy.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
So are we looking at approving both of these policies?
I was looking to make sure that everything in here was approved and then streamlining it a bit into more of a cohesive document. I feel like
Okay.
it's 3 separate documents right now, and I'd like to incorporate it into one more specific encompassing document.
Okay. Okay. That's what I thought you said at the beginning, but I just want to make sure I understood what we're doing here. so.
Absolutely.
So were you just looking for our feedback today, but this is not a final policy that we're going to vote on? You're going to consolidate a little bit more? Is that what you're
Correct.
saying? Okay. Yeah, I do like the verbiage and what all of the policies address. So thank you, Crystal, for providing that.
You're welcome. Never, why reinvent the wheel when you can borrow from it?
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
For sale.
Oh, and then Justin, you had also attached the overall policy manual, and you
Yes.
had mentioned 34 and 30 pages 34 and 39.
Yes, I had mentioned them. I wanted to, there were a few things that I felt like could have been, I don't know, better addressed. One of we can start with page 34,
Mhm.
the use of the library exterior. I first wanted to update, and we had also made some other changes as well, last minute staff suggestions. Use of library exterior, section 2, says that reservations may be made by telephone and an application was at the director's office. We want to change that to the upstairs circulation desk.
Okay.
We want to include a new item, which would be a number 4. No authorized activities may occur in the library garden when the library is closed, including social activities, camping, sleeping, or other use. We included this as a liability because if someone slips, breaks their leg there on a Sunday evening, no one's available to help them. And I think that just making it a blanket statement that if the library is not open, I don't see a reason why anyone needs to be there.
I would agree with that.
Number 8 for use of library exterior, food and drink will be allowed in the library garden area, providing a written request in the initial reservation application. We allow food and drink in there if someone wants to go in there and take lunch. People take food and drink there all the think without requiring an initial reservation or anything in writing. I feel like if anyone is reserving that space, I think it's unnecessary for them to include that food and drink will be provided at their event. But again, we can keep that there if we just want to have it there for the sake of having it. But I feel that it's it's extra verbiage that's, I don't know, unnecessary, but that's just my personal feeling.
I feel like that might be addressing more, say, a larger event and food and drink on a larger scale. But I'm gonna ask him, do you know why that might be in there? Can you think of any reason, something that's happened in the past, or because I know people do take their lunches there all the time. And we like that.
It might need to say no alcoholic beverages rather than food. The only thing that I've ever known of that we used this policy for was maybe a wedding or something like that. There's been a couple of things, and I think there's somebody wanting to use the room or not the room, but the exterior right now, and that's the reason why some of the staff got to looking at it. Why do we do that?
I would think it was probably trying to address like catering and making sure that caterers were properly licensed and things like that. But
it doesn't mention that, but
I don't know what's in the application side. So
originally, when this policy was written, you couldn't even drink or eat inside the library. So I assume it's an extension of that.
Okay.
It's been fairly recently in my lifetime.
Well, the agreement for the reserving the area does include that they need to be able to clean up after themselves after the event. And page 39 of policies does include that there is to be no possession, consumption of alcohol, or being under the influence of alcohol violates our code of conduct.
the alcohol has already been addressed outside of, and that's just library grounds or in the building in general.
Yes.
On the application itself, so if someone does want to use the exterior, they do have to complete an application. I think it might be worth stating there that the consumption of alcoholic beverages is prohibited. I mean, it might already be in the rules and regulations of conduct, but if they're not reading that, I'll say this, I mean, because I think it could be a very innocent thing potentially, but if we're not going to allow alcoholic beverages on the property, I think that's worth pointing out if someone's going to have a wedding reception or, some event, some social event in general in that garden.
Sure. I mean, I honestly don't have the events application in front of me, but I will double check it and make sure that there is something about no alcohol in there. But yes, it is at least somewhere in our policies and procedures already.
Okay.
The other item of note I want to bring up was page 39. There is a rule for sleeping in the library is prohibited. I would like or suggest extending that from sleeping in the library to sleeping on library property.
So I can't take a nap in the garden.
You can take a nap in the garden. I would just recommend,
not pitching a tent in the garden.
Not pitching a tent, not pitching a hammock, things like that. I certainly don't want to try and attempt to criminalize homelessness or anyone who slept in there. But this is one of those all things in moderation. Of course, if you're reading a book and you doze off, that's one thing. Sure. If you've been there for 7-8 hours and you're sawing logs because you're snoring, something like that. If you are perhaps really dead asleep and non-responsive to the point that maybe we would need to call 911, any of those I could see potentially being an issue. But again, all things in moderation.
Well,
I agree. I think it needs to be included.
Yeah, and my concern is from a liability perspective, which is
Yeah.
if we did know that someone, say, was sleeping on library grounds consistently and say in the evenings after it was closed even, so it may be that they're not bothering patrons, but if we know that they're there, other people know, well, even if we don't, but if they're there consistently, I'm just concerned if something happens to them, they're while sleeping, they're attacked, they're harmed, and then they're on library property, that to me opens up potential
Yeah.
liability for
Yeah.
us. So,
Yeah. We could be held accountable.
Do we
and
have
especially if
postings?
we did know they were there, it's,
Yeah.
even if we didn't, we could be, but if we knew they were there,
But we'll
then
have
we
the
really
cameras.
could. Yeah.
Do we have postings in the garden?
We do not.
That might be something we consider.
What do you think,
Uh,
Steve? Has this something, I know maybe most libraries don't have gardens. We are very fortunate, but what are your thoughts?
Well, as
We don't
Justin
want to be
points out,
unwelcoming.
It's library property, anything in library property. I face this in Mason County. And you're right, you need to have postings. That's what I did when I got to Mason County. I had to post signs telling people that they were not allowed to hang out.
Loiter.
You want to use,
Loiter.
however you want to say it, but it needs to be posted. As a matter of fact, your patron conduct policy should be posted inside your library, just so when people say, well, I didn't know that, you can say, well, it's posted right there. Now, they're not going to read it, but at least you can say it was posted. And we had to do that at a big urban library that I worked in. Justin, you might have seen that in Houston, when you were there. But yeah, having things posted is always kind of your backup, so that you can say, well, you didn't know, but guess what? It's already posted. So therefore you're in violation, and therefore, you have to leave or whatever it is.
Absolutely. And,
But it is a problem with all libraries, people sleeping, hanging out, drinking, doing all sorts of stuff.
It is. And, we do have a lot of resources here. Our bookmobile experts, Leslie Garrett, her background is in community involvement. She is very good at obtaining resources and, sourcing the community for things that can be helpful. So anyone who is there, we can definitely offer them resources. We can find places for them to go. We don't want them to feel like, this is their one safe spot. There are plenty of other safe spots if they are looking for somewhere to stay.
Potentially indoors.
Yes, preferably
and safe
indoors,
from the elements.
especially as we get closer to the winter months, for sure. But the reason I brought these up was that because we didn't have anything that, aside from, sleeping in the library, we didn't have anything that said library property. We didn't have anything in regards to camping, sleeping in the garden area. So I didn't really have anything that I could say, here. But if we do, once we have that, approved, we can definitely put up signage that reminds them of that.
So do we need a motion to approve these changes?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
I will make a motion to approve the changes as presented.
Did we decide we're taking out number 8, or
I'm sorry, what did you say, Chris? I didn't hear.
did we decide we're taking out number 8? About food and drink?
If we feel like number 8 is there just to cover our bases, like Kim said, I think it might have been a little antiquated and left in from a previous thing, but if we want to leave it in to cover our bases, I think that's great too.
And the word drink does include alcoholic drinks.
Yeah, it doesn't exclude them.
No,
It doesn't exclude them. We can put that in. Let's see, food and drink / non-alcoholic and non-alcoholic.
yeah.
Oh, well, let's see. I thought we were, so if we're leaving in food and drink will be allowed, I would say food and non-alcoholic drink will be allowed. Yeah. But so really to our, I have no issue with people eating their lunches there. And of course, they do not need to make a written request with us to do it. I think this is referring to larger events. If I'm wanting to have, use my social group is wanting to, my club is wanting to use that for some purpose, and I apply on the application. And I think the application can address all that.
I think it can too. I think this is one of those, again, all things in moderation. If the Tea Time Murder Mystery Club gets there and finds out that they needed permission to have their tea there, obviously we're going to let them have their tea. If they bring, a tanker of murder mystery tea with them, okay, then yes, that could be addressed then. But I think this is within moderation.
Yeah. I don't have strong feelings on it either way. I feel leaving it in might cover us, but what do you guys think?
I don't have strong feelings, although it does just say, providing that a request was made. It doesn't say anything about it having to be approved. So it's basically just they're having to write it on. I'm just pointing out the obvious
I
here.
made a request. Actually, that's a good point. Well, I don't want to it may be too late in terms of belaboring the point, but
should we add during library hours? Food and drink will be allowed during library hours.
We can.
But that would mean, the library closes at 5 on Sunday and I mosey over there at 6 o'clock on Sunday evening to have my dinner. It would be not allowed. So I think that would be going a little too far.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
I do too.
for number 3, we do have functions held on library property should conclude at normal closing. Under no circumstances will the library remain open beyond regular hours to accommodate any function held on library property.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
They'll take care of it.
Mhm.
So, if we've already excluded alcohol,
that was in the code of conduct though, right?
Yes.
but that is on library grounds in general.
On library
Just trying to
grounds,
think
right,
of a
true.
time, would
Maybe-
there be a reason to leave this in here?
Yeah, it's kind of.
Do we have a problem with them bringing in a catered event or a food truck or something of that nature where we need to have
I haven't been here long enough to really say one way or the other, but Kim, have any weddings been catered here at the garden?
No, if they want a bigger wedding, they go over to the fountain area, but I think they're actually charging over there and you have to show insurance or something over there now. It's a beautiful place over there at the fountain, if the fountain is going. But our garden area is very pretty too. I don't think it's happened, but maybe 3 times since I've worked here, so it's not usually a big deal.
Okay.
You can always put something in at director's discretion, something like that.
Okay. I'm okay leaving number 8 the way it is, but just adding in the food and non-alcoholic drink, providing a written request.
Is approved.
Let's see. Will be allowed in the library garden area, providing a written request made on the initial reservation.
Right.
And has been approved.
Has been approved, right. Well, I requested it.
Crystal clearly deals with kids.
Yeah.
Okay. And has been approved by the director.
Yes. So I will make a motion to approve those changes as presented.
I have one last comment, Rachel. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Don't shoot me.
No.
So the way that number 4 reads, no unauthorized activities may occur in the library garden when the library is closed. So it specifically addresses unauthorized activities when the library is closed.
How about if we just take out when the library is closed? No unauthorized activities may occur in the library garden, period. Including,
Okay.
we just say including social
That's what I'm
activities.
suggesting, because we're saying no
Yeah.
unauthorized activities when we're closed, but what about?
But we're open, woo!
Yeah.
You didn't say we
You know,
couldn't come out at night.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Party's on when we're open.
Yeah.
Well, I remember we're coming to Howling at the Moon in the library. It was after library hours, so you don't want to stop things like that.
No,
Oh, no,
no,
we-
that's again, authorized activities anytime Unauthorized
Yeah.
activities, no time.
No
Mhm.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no unauthorized activities may occur in the library garden, including social activities, camping, sleeping, or other use.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
Okay, any others?
I will continue with my motion.
Oh, I did have one more change I forgot to mention.
Oh, which one?
Number 10, it reads, the user agrees that he, she, it.
Ooh,
I think we can change it to they.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
It's just.
goodness.
Okay, I'm glad that was an easy one.
As they're due. If it's
Yes,
they,
the user
they do,
the user agrees that he, she, or they do not
Mhm.
intend to and will
Yeah.
not use said premises for
Mhm.
purposes. Da, da, da,
Yeah.
da, da.
Okay.
Much better.
Okay. Then I believe that is all the changes I recommended.
Now I'll make a motion to approve.
Third time's a charm.
I'm gonna die on this hill.
How
Do we
about
have a
let's second
second?
it before? Yeah, I'll second
All
it.
right. Has
We'll
anybody
change-
made Has anyone made a second? A second? Has
I just
anybody
did.
seconded?
I did.
Oh,
You did.
Roy did, yeah.
Okay. If you didn't, I was going to, but I wanted to be sure.
I want to
all
make
in-
sure before anybody said anything else.
So all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so,
And that was going to be a short one, right?
yeah, really, it shows what I know, my goodness.
Surprise!
Well, so Justin, I'm glad that you went to that, to the fiscal court meeting last night, because, so who was presenting? Was it some of the fire districts?
It was two fire districts,
Mhm.
health departments,
Mhm.
and the extension office.
Okay. Mhm. And did they basically, in the past, it has been very straightforward. They would basically go up and say, they might say, we're taking the compensating rate. And often if they do, then they're asked, well, what is that rate? And then they will often, even though it's the compensating rate, they might be asked, well, is that an increase from where you are now? And hopefully they'll know if, and they'll know what their current rate is. And they usually do. Is that basically in line with what you experienced?
That was basically in line.
Okay.
Every department that presented yesterday had no increase.
Mhm.
Pretty much, they got up there and said, "There's no changes." Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay.
It was very straightforward.
Okay. And that actually, so I have with me, I'll hold this up. You can see this is a sheet that tracks what our rates have been since 2000, which was actually, I guess, 2001, which was the first year we did this. The last year we took the compensating rate was, I believe, 2017. We have actually held rates steady in 18, 19, 20, and now 21. Now, let's see. I should say, on the real estate, we did hold personal property the same in 18 and 19. It actually went down in 2020, and that was the compensating rate. The compensating rate went down. So.
Okay.
But so for 2021, we are also at 0.061 for real estate. And we opted to keep personal property the same as well, which is, I guess, 0.0791 again. And then motor vehicle is apparently always 0.5 or 0.05, sorry. In the past, we have sometimes taken, we used to take something that, say, looks sort of like this. I'll kind of show this up. And Justin, this is just kind of a nice little thing to see. It just shows, let's see. number of visits to the well, and now this pre-COVID, we went a different route last year because COVID just blew this kind of thing apart. But during normal operations, this was in 18 and 19. We had 330,721 visits to the library, 193,000 visits to mclib.net. Total number of items checked out, 714,617. And then I'm not sure how they calculated this, but I always liked it. The money the average user saved on books, DVDs, and ebooks, 358. And I think they did that because they said the number of books per active user checked out was 12, and the number of DVDs per active user was 9. Now that's just an average. I know. I mean, someone may have gotten 36 and 2 other people got nothing, but you know, they're averaging.
Sure.
But I guess they went on Amazon and just calculated an average amount that you would pay for a book and an average amount you would pay for a DVD and did math that came up with, you know, basically you saved $358 over if you had bought those items. And then at that time, we had 43,100 people attended 900 different programs. But I did really like that. But again, the numbers, and even for this fiscal year as well, it's going to be messed up because of the closure. So last year, what we did, and I can scan this for you, Justin. This is a 2-sided thing. On the front, it says, "What do we mean to the community?" And it shows that we hosted the Lemonade Academy, which that was something we did with Sprocket.
Mhm.
It has the flu shot clinic that we did. It has something about Sprocket down here. And then on this side, it mentions those digital tool kits, the digital library cards, which digital library cards, my gosh, we started those. Let's see, when did the closure start up last year? March or maybe early April?
March. I think
March.
We literally tripled our digital library card over in a 30-day period. Our applications tripled. But those were some of the things. And then we do have the stats, like down here, we have them just kind of down here in the corner, things that made sense to list. But it was kind of a nice little information sheet. And so it's still, you know, if we want to put something together like that, you know, in the past, what we would do is we would just walk up and we'd say, "Hey, we have some library information for you." And I would say, I think in general, the commissioner or the county commissioners do appreciate the library, as does the judge executive. And they have, like I said, been very complimentary of us. So, but yeah, so what you've seen is when we say a presentation, it's really more, we just need to have data available. We need to know what our current tax rate, what our tax rates were for last fiscal year, know what they are for this fiscal year. If there's an increase, we need to be able to justify why we're taking it. And I would say we might have our financials available. Let's see, I'm looking, because sometimes they'll ask if we had an income or a loss last year. And I pulled that actually. Let me see.
At a loss because we did all that construction.
Yes. I wanted to pull the actual amount, and I actually do have it here. It's just I have several things going on, but we wanted to say, you know, we specifically budgeted for a number of capital improvements, list what they are. And I also had, this is my fiscal court planning folder. One of the things that we had last year, we had Paul King work with us on, we did projected facility upgrades for, you can see that goes out for a number of years, what those might be and how much they might cost. And part of that was because if we were asked what we're using our reserve for, absolutely future, I would say, maintenance and repairs are a big part of that. And I mean, we did, you know, the elevator a couple of years ago, excuse me, you don't always know what to estimate. That ended up being almost 200,000. And Kim, do you remember what the original estimate was? I think it was under 100.
It was right at 100.
Yeah, and it ended up being double that for a couple of reasons. the elevator that we have and the elevator shaft that we have, obviously 50 years old because the building is 50 years old. And there was one manufacturer that made an elevator that would fit that shaft. So we had to use them. So in essence, we were at their mercy. And then there were just, then there, there were delays. There were, I would say, additional things that came up, additional work that came up that we had to do to prep for the elevator, just all kinds of stuff. But again, if we had only had 100,000, what would we have done? Because that cost was going up. It continued to go up after the old elevator had been removed and we had an empty elevator shaft. So, I mean, we have to put something in it. But if we didn't have the reserve that we have, I mean, we could have really been up a creek. So
Yeah, you would have turned that into a dumbwaiter and I guess just have books lowered into the shaft.
well, and for patrons who can't climb stairs, I mean, it was months that we didn't have an elevator. So that really was an issue.
Oh yeah, I mean, you cut half the building off for some of the population.
But we talked with Chip Sutherland. I have reached out to him a couple of times and I'm not hearing back from him. Steve, do you know who he is? Have you worked with him before on things?
I haven't worked with him, but I know who he is.
Okay. Well,
let's serve about him.
And so I have a note here. Call Chip Sutherland. I emailed and then I called and I didn't hear anything. And I had admittedly been busy myself. I called a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to call him back. I mean, it's very likely I hit him at a busy time as well. And he has also been meaning to call me back and he was just busy. He sent me the names of a couple of other people who he works with, they all work at Baird and they all do this kind of work. And they were on emails that he and I corresponded on. I just didn't reach out to them yet because he was my main contact. But if by chance, he's unavailable, I can reach out to them as well. But I do, we definitely are putting a reserve policy in place that just states how we plan to use our reserve, what our policy is about it. And so.
Yeah, Chip and Chris Bischoff, the North Central region, they're working together on all that. So
okay,
that'll be coming out for the whole state what they're working on.
So Justin, actually, I will definitely plan to go. Do you feel comfortable presenting, or would you want us to? I am totally fine doing it myself because you're so new. I really do not mind. Now that you have seen how it works, if you want to do that, you're fine. I'm also fine to stand with you in case they ask historical questions that you couldn't be expected to know.
Yes, as the new guy, I'm acutely aware that I don't know what I don't know. I certainly would not mind having a helping hand up there for sure.
So okay, we'll just plan on co-presenting. You can lead, but if they ask a question that you couldn't be expected to answer, I will pipe right up.
Okay, I appreciate it. I am currently working with our technical services manager to pull some numbers, some stats for a sheet to hand out.
Okay.
I am looking into providing a return on income or return on investment, excuse me. I would like to provide some kind of ROI that shows for every dollar they put in, this is what they're getting back out of it in terms of value. I want them to know that their money is well spent.
And definitely we want to emphasize the Sprocket investment, which truly they are extremely appreciative of our partnership in that. But that is something they also feel very strongly about. But in any ways that we have, I would not just done traditional library services and programming, but anything more unique ways that we may have assisted with the local economy, with job seekers, especially again during COVID. In anything that you can creatively think of, or that the staff can creatively think of, would be good to put down. So
okay, I also have some contacts in Houston that you reminded me. In my previous library, which also uses Cersei Dynix as their library system, we had it set up so when patrons checked out, their receipt would tell them you saved this much money today by checking out.
Oh,
Since we're both on Cersei, I'm going to look and see if we can pull those same metrics, because I would love to get
I
an exact
love
number
that.
as to how much money patrons saved this year.
Yes. So did
Yes.
it tell you both with that checkout and year to date?
I don't think it.
Oh,
They
you
may say
think
it
it
on
does?
their account for year to date, but it
Okay.
only told you for that particular checkout
okay.
on the receipt.
Ours, I can't remember what we had in Columbia, South Carolina, at the big urban library there, but patrons would come up, and I had one guy that would say, I'm shooting for 100,000. I'm getting there.
Well, I was going to say, if it's cumulative year to date, mine will say you have saved thousands, and I have saved thousands, and I appreciate my library. So,
Absolutely.
well, and Justin, you and I can sync up maybe closer to the event. I mean, if you want, like, maybe I'll come meet with you. Let's see, what time is this again?
5.
5. I'll come over at say 4:15, and we can go over some things if you want, but it doesn't need a whole lot of prep. So
Okay.
Do we
That
have
sounds like a plan.
Is the
Do we-
board going to this, or is just you two? or-
absolutely, the entire board and all the friends are invited. The more the merrier.
Mhm.
And I say that very seriously. It always is nice just to show support. And our friends group is very devoted about, I mean, they usually it's pews in the, as you've seen now, Justin, pews in the courtroom. They will fill a row. They will fill an entire pew.
Oh yeah, they can definitely fill an entire bench. Absolutely, I would love to have them there.
I've only been to one of them. I didn't know if I missed them or whatever it was. But what date is this?
That is Monday, September 13th at 5 p.m.
Okay.
Do we
Justin,
have,
this is unrelated to the, just a quick question about the director's report you gave. The Loki teen event, is that a library specific event?
It's a library event, but it's hosted at Etc. Coffee House.
Right, but we organized and hosted that.
Yes, we did organize it. We do host it. Just the coffee house is the location.
Right. Well, we put it in our monthly newsletter here at the Housing Authority this month. I saw the girl who does that often looks at you guys listing and to see what kind of activities that we can post for you guys. And I noticed that one in there, but I didn't realize, I get because it had the low-key stuff, I didn't realize it was a library sponsored event. I just glanced at it, and so cool.
Oh, okay, great.
There is something that we have left off the agenda, and that is about the banking stuff. Rachel, you were going to have all that stuff, and
well, about them presenting next month, do you mean?
getting all the paperwork
Well, you know
signed.
what, but well, number one, obviously I did forget, but you know what, if we're not in person, we can't do it anyway. Are we thinking that we will be doing all of our meetings remotely? Well, I guess what we could do, I could get it over to you or to Wendy. And then if you guys hold it there, everyone could just come sign as needed. What I'm referring to, we need to add Justin to the library's checking account as director. Right now, he is not on the account, so he can't sign checks. But in the process of doing that, it actually requires all signers to re-sign. So I had planned to bring it to our meeting, but clearly forgot. But if I get that paperwork updated, I can just bring it over and put it with Wendy and Kim, and I'll let everyone else know, and we can all just come in and sign at our convenience. So, and Justin can sign as well. So thank you, Kim, for that reminder.
Well, the other thing is the credit card. He needs a credit card. And I understand there's something about Paducah Bank is not taking care of those.
Well, see, we have always used an outside vendor for that. And a couple years ago, we changed the outside vendor because we weren't I would say, happy with the service we were getting from the old one. I shouldn't say us. We weren't happy with the service our customers were getting from the old one. Unfortunately, the new one ended up being even worse. And so I need to confirm now. I'm not sure who to go to for that. I can easily find out. I'm just not sure off the top of my head, but I will follow up on that too. So did we canceled Susan's, I'm assuming? Or we
Yes.
Okay. So Justin, I will look into getting you one as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We also need, Wendy needs one, and I
Okay.
think the policy said the managers, and for sure it says the business manager, and she is not gonna be a manager, so we need to get her added as a credit
Okay.
card holder also.
Okay. So is there anyone else on that list, do you think, who needs one?
Well, just Justin and Wendy that I know
Okay.
of right now.
Okay. Okay.
But, we probably need a board action on adding Wendy on there.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. I see. Well, I will make a motion to obtain a bank credit card for Wendy.
Okay,
I'll second.
Thank you,
who was
Melanie.
that?
Melanie.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And just clarifying that, considering she pays all the bills and stuff, somebody else will be reviewing. I mean, obviously somebody else
Mhm.
signs that, but
Well, and she
we've
can't
got
sign
the
checks.
internal
So, yeah.
checks and balances there
Mhm. Yeah.
to protect. the
Lots of
library.
checks and balances. Somebody else even has to authorize, Justin's card before it's paid. Before we
Sure.
pay the bills, somebody else has to look at it, and it can't be Wendy or I. It needs to be somebody outside of. We have used Brian in the past because he's not in the administration offices here.
Mhm.
That's something I also noted when I was looking at the policies for the library. It references a lot to refer to the business manager,
Yeah.
business manager. So that's going to require some changes to the policy book. So I don't know if that's a motion thing too, but they'll have to be written to change that.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that will have to be redone. Hopefully, maybe we'll get to it next month. I'll have them a list of all of it together. Some of it may have to go to the director, and then some of it will probably just go to you, depending on what it is.
And specifically what Kim is referring to is the fact that technically Wendy's title is not business manager. So that's why anything that refers to business manager in the policy, with Kim retiring and when we're taking her duties and kind of splitting them out among people, we might need to look at the specific policy and see what it is. And to your point, Kim, then decide, is that a director thing? Is it Wendy? Is it someone else?
Yeah.
And we'll update it accordingly.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Rachel, it might be worth pointing out that I'm just kind of curious.
Mhm.
Our board terms are 4 years, correct?
Yes.
All right.
We don't have anyone coming, or we did not have anyone whose term expired this year.
For some reason, I was thinking that my term expired this year. I thought I started in June of 2017.
I don't think you did, because I started in 16 and you were more than a year behind me. I think you might have been 18. It just seems like forever, Crystal.
Well,
I'm kidding.
Melissa left the bank left us to come to the bank in 2017, and I thought it was right
Mhm.
after that.
According to my chart, it says Crystal started July 1st, 2018.
Okay. And I
Okay.
really think you did, because I knew Melissa fairly well before she and I had that discussion. And so I know she wouldn't have just started, but yes, I'm not even sure. I thought the terms were staggered so that we had one person a year. Like we didn't, because now we basically have a year with no one. And then next year we're going to have 2 people whose terms expire, but I guess it just ended up that way. I don't know how.
Janice's will expire and she
that's
cannot be renewed, and
Mhm.
Crystal
Okay.
expires, but she could be renewed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okey doke. Well, Kim, so everyone, I will get updated signature cards over to Kim. It may take, I will say, it may take a day or two for the branch to get that done, but I will let you know when it's there, when the paperwork is there, and we'll have all the places marked that you need to sign. And then Justin and Wendy, I will follow up and find out. I'll get you, basically, I'll get you credit card applications. I'll find out internally what that process is. So. Do we
Great.
have anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Crystal seconding. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Well, Steve, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yes.
Thank you for letting me be here. Please, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Look forward to
join-
getting out there. My
Yeah.
wife is a quilter and she wants to get to.
Oh, well, I am actually on the board of the
wonderful.
Quilt Museum as well. So
We'll
it
give
is,
you a
it is a
behind-the-scenes
nice
tour.
museum. I mean, seriously, she would really enjoy it.
Yes.
And Paducah's a nice
amazing.
city. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Mhm.
It
All right.
really is. I was blown away.
Y'all have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you, Melanie.
Yes,
Stay safe.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
see
Have a good
y'all.
Don't
night.
get too
Nice
hot.
to meet you too, Wendy.
Nice to meet
Bye.
you.